All right, everybody, welcome back to the Millennial Sales Podcast. This is your host, Tommy Tahoe. This is where young salespeople come to learn how to grow in their career, make more money, get the next job, grow the skills that you need to be successful. Feeling very fortunate, feeling blessed, feeling excited for episode 232 today. Before we get to that, let's do a quick shout out to our sponsors. First up, gong.io. What else can I say? I love Gong so much that I joined there. You may have seen the $250 million that we got in funding last week. It's the number one revenue intelligence platform. It's the greatest sales invention since sliced bread. It's the best thing that I've ever used for my career personally. You should check it out. If you're a CRO, VP of sales, individual contributor, whatever it is changing the game, and it has changed the game for thousands of companies. So check us out at gong.io, or just hit me up on LinkedIn, DM me, and I can point you in the right direction. So shout out to everyone that has already done that, and we've gotten some conversations started. The second shout out for the sponsor goes to postal.io. Shout out to Postal. They help in a world where everyone's trying to automate and custom, and just kind of mass blast things, especially with gifts. They take the alternate approach. They really highly customize it. You can personalize gifts for customers, prospects, partners that are coming from places like the brewery across town or the florist on the street corner. They even do something that I like, which is like handwritten notes that you type out, because my handwriting's so bad that people can actually read them that way. It's really cool. I use it with customers. I use it with podcast guests. And they're doing a special thing. Anyone that reviews this podcast on Apple, only this month, it ends at the end of June, this offer, they'll give a free Starbucks gift card. So you review the podcast on Apple, it'll take 1 minute, and then we'll hit you up with a free Starbucks gift card. So shout out to both of them, gong.io, postal.io. Let's get to today's conversation. As we're kicking off June here, I've got Austin Matthews. Austin is a sales manager at pulseM. He formerly spent 4 years at Customer Lobby. That's where he was when we had this conversation. We talk about all things, the art of the cold call, language, how to persuade, how to influence people. It's a great episode, especially if you're out there in the field making cold calls every day. I think you'll find some good tactical advice here. So without further ado, let's get straight into my conversation with Austin. Let's go. Austin Matthews, good evening. How you doing, man? Welcome to Millennial Sales.
Doing well. Tommy Tahoe, how are you?
I'm in the house. I'm excited to be talking with you, man. You got the full setup over there.
I know, man. Hey, I want to do this right.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And so do the listeners, and their audio quality while they're walking the dog or, washing dishes or whatever it is that they're probably multitasking doing while listening to this podcast.
For sure. Tommy, before we jump in, I got to ask you, because I'm very curious. The name Tommy Tahoe, what's the backstory of Tommy Tahoe?
Man, partially, there's just, every good nickname has alliteration. You know what I'm saying? You got to have the two T's there. But the true story is, like 4 years ago, I decided to run a marathon with one of my best friends and my sister up in Lake Tahoe. Nice. And, I'd never run more than like 5 or 6 miles before. That wasn't really my thing. And I remember we were running. I was running side by side with my buddy. And, you hit that point. I don't know if you are a runner or and have done anything like that, but there's always that point, like mile 17, 18, where you're just like knocked down. It was pretty much like all of 2020, where it's just like, everything is hard. Your body hurts, your mind hurts. And I think I was starting to get a little bit down, and he just goes like, man, screw that. You're Tommy Tahoe. And like, kind of like to jack me up. And it was almost like an alter ego of like, man, that just like, I just like re-identified myself as like this guy. And like, awesome. So it kind of holds like a mean, it's as simple as like, it just sounds kind of cool, which is, I think is true. But for me, it also kind of like, I just kind of like feel like a different person sometimes, because that moment, you can just kind of like redefine
sure.
yourself, and like to an extreme level. I don't know if you're familiar with David Goggins, but he kind of has that same mentality.
Guy's crazy, man.
People call him
run a marathon, break broken feet, and just keep running.
I mean, I'm like, if there's the Goggins spectrum, I'm like, way down here, and he's way over here.
Right.
But it's the same type of philosophy.
Yeah, for sure. No, that guy's nuts. That guy's crazy. That's awesome, man. That's a good backstory. I like that. I was wondering if it had something to do specifically with Tahoe. I grew up in Tahoe, so
did?
Right at the summit, like mountains of snow. When people say they get snowed in, like literally we couldn't open the front door sometimes. So it's got a place in my heart. So
Tahoe is one of my favorite places on earth.
Me too, 100%, man. Yeah.
All year round. Doesn't matter.
All year round, yeah. It doesn't matter when. Yeah. I'll go up anytime.
Almost sneaky spring and fall, which most people neglect, is the best time because there's not as many people up there hogging up either the slopes or the lake or the restaurants.
Great place to train too for runners like you, man. Get up in the altitude. Yeah,
the altitude will get you.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to have you on. I'm always curious before we get into what you're doing today. I was looking on LinkedIn and saw a number of different jobs that you had before going over to Customer Lobby. Looked like the Marin, what is it, the Music Mart or something like that?
Marin Music Center.
Music Center. Yeah. So I'd love to hear what got you in there into sales. It clearly wasn't just like a straight shot out of school. So tell me about the winding path.
Yeah, I always tell this people in an interview. I always say this, but I did a ton of things. I've had just a ton of jobs. I've been working since I was like 15, and I did some a lot of retail stuff, a lot of retail sale, Samsung, Sony, that kind of stuff. Go around to stores and teach people how to sell the product and that kind of stuff. I was working at a music store. It was just super fun, laid back while I was doing some school. Learned a lot, got to play music all day. It was really fun. And then I always say to people, it's like, I don't think kids, they're not growing up and they're like, man, I want to be a salesman when I get older. They kind of fall into it. Right. And I really wanted to work at a tech company. I just wanted to work at a tech company. I wanted to get my foot in somewhere. Wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do. But I found Customer Lobby and went in there, and like just the first day sitting down on the phones and listening to people, it was like incredible to me. I was like, dude, I can do this. Like, this is where I could do this really well. My ego, I was like, you shouldn't have said that, and yeah, man, just loved it. Just fell in love with it. And that's kind of where I came from. But
you're fortunate to have your first tech job. You've been at Customer Lobby over 3 years. Yeah. That's unique. Most people, it's like, it could be 6 to 18 months, and then either they leave or, get fired, or it's a mutual thing, or whatever it might be. But your first tech company, first tech sales job, going on, over 3 years is an impressive story.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely reasons for that, right? I stayed here because this company I'm at, Customer Lobby, is just really unique. And I could go somewhere else to a big company, there's a lot of things. I've stayed here because the way we operate, I'm able to do things that a lot of people don't get to do in sales, right? You come in every day, like you have your one specific track and job you're doing. But like I'm in charge of the AE team, but like I get to work on partnership deals. I get to help with marketing. I get to help with like where product's moving. I just get to wear a lot of hats and learn a lot that I would not have been able to do at another company. So I love absorbing that stuff and being a part of the mission and where that company is going is just, that's really exciting to me. So,
yeah. And how many people are working there?
Total at the company, we have people around a few different places. I believe there's 50 now. Yeah.
Yeah. See, that's like the perfect size for like, you're getting your hand in all the pots.
Yeah. No, it's a lot of fun, man. It's a lot of fun. I wouldn't change it for the world.
I love it. So we were talking a little bit ahead of time, and you have a passion for cold calling.
Yeah.
And that's something that if you say those eight letters, 2 words, cold call to people, people might throw up, people might pass out, people are scared, they hate it. And so it's a unique passion. I'd love to hear
why it is, and kind of what your take is on the cold call, and how you kind of develop that for the team.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, I think where I'm at, we're in kind of a unique position. I've listened to some of your podcasts. I think you had Kayla on, she was talking about like, LinkedIn and Clubhouse and all these different things are like, those are great, but like, you really need to focus on your quota. You need to focus on like making those calls. And the, clients, the people that prospects we talk to, they're not usually the people that are on LinkedIn and those kinds of things. So we've always had this mantra of bringing it to basics. So just bring it back to basics, man. Like making the cold calls, having conversations, being dynamic, just that baseline has been really important for us. And because I've gotten to live in that area, I don't know. I feel like there's so much to learn there. There's so many obstacles and they change from rep to rep, right? Depending on who you are. You were talking about fear, right? I think that's probably the biggest deterrent from people being successful in a role, is because they're afraid to pick up the phone. And they may not even know that. They may not even admit that like, I'm scared to pick up the phone. So instead they spend 20 minutes, 30 minutes researching a lead before they call it, make the call, it goes nowhere. And you just wasted, 25, 30 minutes of your day on one call. So I really like to try to break that habit from people and just let them know, don't be married to the outcome of the call. It's not about that, right? It's about getting on the phone, doing the best you can. All right. If you get hung up on, if you have somebody that's not interested, that's fine. Disposition, move on, go to the next one. I think that's super important. That holds people back a lot. But
yeah, I think, I remember the days of making cold calls and hoping that the person on the other end did not answer the phone.
Yeah.
And you have like a sigh of relief every time that you hear, you've reached the voicemail of, and
Right.
Obviously that's not the goal. The goal is to actually get them live.
Yeah.
And then when you have them, which is fairly rare, to, be able to have a real conversation with them.
Yeah.
So if you see that that's happening, how do you actually, other than just kind of saying the words, like, how would you coach me to kind of get over that fear and focus more on, just doing it versus being attached to the outcome?
Sure. I mean, I think there's a lot of things you do. One of my favorite things to do that I've done several times now is I'll bring everybody into a meeting. It'll be our team meeting. And I'll say, okay, everybody's going to, we're going to take turns. I'm going to call on who's going to go, but I'm not going to give you any info, but the person's name and the phone number to call. And they share their audio. They have to make a cold call and try to book a demo. And sometimes they're very successful, but it just teaches them that like, it doesn't matter. All that other stuff, like you're looking at the history, you're looking at this, and you just don't want to mess up this lead that you have. Like, it doesn't matter. Like that stuff is there. That's great. But like, when it comes down to it, it's about picking up the phone. It's about making the dial. And when they see that success, when they see like, that really doesn't matter, I just need to call and have a conversation with somebody. I think that really like breaks them out of that fear that they have that, that call, it doesn't matter. I don't need to hold on to this lead for, 160 days because I'm afraid to call it. Like, just get it done with and move on to the next one,
And if you're talking about having conversations with people versus pitching,
Yeah.
which again, as you're starting in sales, you're not thinking I'm calling this CEO or insert title here to just have a conversation with them. You're thinking, I need to book a meeting. I need to get them sold on my product. I need to do all these things. So do you change the talk track? Like, I don't know if you're using scripts or a certain like kind of guidance on talk track, but how do you go about that if you're trying to reinforce that this is a conversation, nothing else?
Yeah. So, I mean, a few things there. I think before anything, before somebody gets on the phone and is calling, like I think it's the difference between a telemarketer and a salesman. Is like you can call, 100, 200 people and just read off the script and like, okay, this branch goes this way and I say this. Like, you're not having a conversation, you're not telling a story. But if you start with product first, right, and you make sure that that person on the phone, before they're even making that phone call, they're a subject matter expert. They know how this company works. They know how it fits in. They know when they go to the bar with their buddy and sits down and is like, oh, so what are you doing at that company? He's going to be able to explain it in a conversation to his friend, and his friend's going to get that. Right. So it's just about getting them to that point. So when they're on their phone, they're able to have that conversation. You touched on another thing, which is, humans are selfish, right? I mean, we're selfish, people are
Guilty.
selfish. I mean, even if we're not even realizing we're doing it, but when we're on the phone, like you said, new rep, you're getting on, you're like, I got to book a demo, right? You're not thinking about what's going to help the other guy on the other side of the phone. So I think reframing that mindset as well, and thinking about, I'm talking to actually the human being over here. This is something that could actually benefit their business. But what's actually important to them, right? And if you're doing that, and if you're thinking about that, and you're a subject expert in your business and how you can help people, every conversation is going to be different. So I think it is important to start with like a baseline script when training somebody, to just help them get in the flow of the language and the words that are used, call flow, those types of things. The signal disrupt in the beginning is super important. But once you get past that, it's about having a conversation with that person, and every call should be different because you're talking to a different person.
And how do you coach the reps to become the subject matter expert? Because that's another issue that I remember from back in the day, and it can still be a struggle when in your mid-20s as an AE, of having the credibility and knowing that the person that you're talking to may have been doing their job longer than you've been alive, and that's intimidating.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, how do you kind of fast track the knowledge that they need to at least be, dangerous and confident enough on a call?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like I said, I think starting with product first, doing some really in-depth product training, how things work, learning about the industries that you're selling into. And yeah, you're definitely going to have that daunting feeling of like, imposter syndrome of like, why is this guy that's been doing this for 30 years want to talk to me, right? But I think if, it's not about being a complete expert about every single thing that person's doing in his day, but an expert on your product and how that product fits in for them. And usually when you're calling into a business or you're talking to somebody, you have something new, you have something different that can help, right? So you're going to have insights that person's not going to have, which, that's what you're exploiting, right? Is your insights, and that's what they're buying from you, right? They could go online easily and find multiple products probably that compete with yours and choose which one they want to go with. Ultimately, in the end of the day, they're buying from your insight. They're buying from what you're saying to them, and that trust you're building with them.
Yeah. How about technology? I'm curious if you're someone that focuses on sales tech, if you have maybe just the basics. I'm not sure, at a 50-person company, it could go either way. You could maybe say, hey, we don't have enough budget for a lot, or we're kind of testing these other small companies, and there's something interesting that we're doing. I'm just curious if you are leveraging anything that is game changing for you in any way.
Yeah, I mean, we've definitely tried a lot of different sales enablement tools before. So, a lot of them just felt really over-engineered for what we were doing, the people that we're talking to. And, that's why we're always talking about bringing it back to basics and what we're doing. I mean, obviously we use, email stuff, tracking, that kind of stuff. But yeah, when it comes to Gong's a great tool. It's definitely something I'd love to have at some point. Love reading their stuff. They have great insights on things. I don't know if we're yet at a place where that's going to be the most beneficial for us, but hopefully very soon. I think it could be. But yeah, I mean, right now we're really at basics, man. Salesforce, making those calls. A huge one that's really helpful for us. It's like, I don't know if you ever use this, but White Pages. You got a White Pages account?
You mean the literal White Pages?
Literal White Pages.
Okay.
Have you ever used it? Have you ever used it?
For sales? No.
Man, so you go on there, you can actually find people super easy, and you're just like getting their actual direct lines to talk to them. My reps that use that have like the highest connect rate with the DM. Some of my most successful reps use that tool all the time.
That's hilarious. Not Zoom Info or Seamless or this or that. Let's just go straight back to basics. You're
White Pages, man.
Guy.
I'm telling you, try it, dude. It really works.
I love it. How do you when you're thinking about fundamentals, you're getting reps that are coming straight out of school or another career. I'm curious, what's the first thing that you work with them on? Is it their mindset? Is it, this is what our company does, this is who our customer is? maybe it's a combination, but if you could really kind of put an emphasis on one thing that sets the baseline for them as a salesperson, what would it be?
Yeah. So just a new person coming on.
Yeah. If I just started with you.
Yeah, that's a great question. I like to start with product and diving into our customers and who we're working for, what we're doing, why we do what we do. I think our mission statement's really important. And then talking about how we fit in. We have kind of a complex product in terms of what we do and how it can fit in many different ways. So, I think just establishing the importance of that, why people need this, how that product fits in for those different folks and how it couldn't fit in for some folks, and figuring that out in advance is really where I like to start. And then moving into conversations, moving into language, moving into, how to get more out of people without feeling like you're badgering them and asking them a bunch of questions, how to actually find pain points. I constantly, reps that are newer, they'll like pounce on one thing super quick before they have the full picture, and they end up shooting themselves in the foot because they just didn't have the ammo they needed for that person. So just learning how to have that conversation, bring that out, is I think super important to begin with before you really dive into the deep stuff.
Yep. And I'm curious for you personally, through your the last 3 or 4 years that you've kind of really dove into sales and had a lot of success and climbed up the ranks, other sort of learning and development, whether it be books or podcasts or people you follow on LinkedIn or Instagram or however it is that you like to learn. I'm curious if there's anything that's been really impactful for you or that you recommend to others. I'm always looking to hear what people have to recommend.
Yeah, no, LinkedIn's great. There's a ton of great articles on. I mean, there's just so many sources, but I would say when it comes to me, like when I want to learn something, when I want to actually dive in, I think books are probably my favorite thing. I think, if somebody's writing a book, they have actually spent a unbelievable amount of time on that subject. And I feel like even if it's not even that great of a book, I get two or three things out of that that are really important to me that I try to implement. But that's huge. One thing I'm sure you heard, Chris Voss, Never Split the Difference. He has like a master class now and stuff like that, but I've been studying him for a long time. And just that art of a conversation, that art of how to negotiate with somebody is incredible to me. So I start, that's another thing I start off with people when we're talking about having a conversation, is going through that and teaching labeling, teaching mirroring, teaching going for the no. Those things are they're invaluable when you're on the phone having that conversation.
Yep. Yeah, I absolutely agree. Any books that stand out, and they could be sales specific or completely otherwise, no topic off limits. I'm just curious.
Another really great one is it's called Insight Selling. I was talking a little bit about some of the stuff he talks about earlier, which is that you're sort of selling yourself, right? You're selling your insights and your expertise to people. John Doerr is the author of that. If you haven't read that, it's a great book. I started off when we started off my career, I started reading, Challenger Sale. There's a lot of good bits in that book as well.
Here's my one thing about the Chris Voss stuff.
Okay.
If I can rant for a second.
No, let's do it.
And this is why the fundamentals are so important in keeping it conversational, because he's gotten so big. And, quick side plug, he was a podcast guest a while ago, so people can check that out. But he's gotten so big and his stuff is so rock solid. But if you do it in the wrong way, it's actually a deterrent. Like I have
You're
people,
absolutely right.
A recruiter or someone that wants to come on the podcast be like, would it be a terrible idea for you to have me on your podcast? I go, I don't yeah, I guess it would if you're going to talk like that. It's gotta be, you have to, take what the resources are and then really mold it into your own style.
Absolutely.
And make sure it's comfortable, with you and how you jive. So that's for any book, for any resource, for anything that, great people like, Austin or, Kevin Dorsey or John Barrows or whoever are putting out on LinkedIn, you got to always make it your own.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Because I'll teach mirroring and stuff to people, and some people just get it and it just clicks. Other people, it's just always awkward. And they're mirroring at the wrong time. They're mirroring the wrong things. They don't even have a purpose for why they just mirrored somebody, right? It just comes across super awkward. So I absolutely agree with you. For sure. You got to take it and make it your own. And honestly, I think that's like a superpower to have is stealing from people. And, you know, that's what kind of sucks about being remote is you don't get to have the fringe benefit of people around you to steal from, but listening to those people that are great or getting their call recordings or any of that, and taking those tidbits that are working for them and make it your own, right? Shift that. You can't sell the same way he sells, but maybe he has some tactic there that's really great, working really well. Make that your own, you know? Anyway, that's
totally.
Yeah.
I totally agree. And that's what I miss about being in an office is being able to take those little nuggets, those little tidbits that you wouldn't normally hear. And you go, oh, wow, like, man, that was a great one-liner or, you know, great question. Or so that's why I think agreed that, you know, whether it's call recordings, whether it's chatting with people one-on-one, you know, reading different things, try to absorb that and then make it your own.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree.
Austin, this has been a pleasure. Is there anything else that was top of mind for you that we didn't get to as we're kind of closing out soon?
Yeah, I guess I wanted to leave it because I think this is really important. It's something people miss a lot that I see, and that's tracking your success and not, you know, it's so important to know where you need to go, what you need to work on to be better. And people, you know, they're constantly looking at sort of the lagging indicator instead of the leading indicator when it comes to that. So like looking at things like, you know, call to set ratio, DM connect rate, things like that, they're telling you things, right? If you're making a crap load of calls, right, and you're not getting any DMs on the phone, well, maybe you have a problem getting through the gatekeeper, right? Maybe you have a problem, you know, tweaking that area specifically to get better, and not waiting to go into your one-on-one for your manager to be like, hey, this is your number. Like, own those, take those under yourself and work on those specific points. And then when you're setting those goals, like if I was like, okay, Tommy, what's your goal for, you know, next month? And you're like, oh, to book more demos. That's not really you know, that's a lagging indicator, right? It's not a leading indicator. That's not really the goal. The goal is to make more calls, you know, how do I get a hold of more DMs? Those are the things you should be putting your goals around. And then that end sort of indicator there is going to be the demos booked. Anyways, I think it's super important to track things yourself. And I don't see people do it very much.
Yeah, well, you're the CEO of your own territory, your own
Absolutely.
business. I mean, I think that's great advice that was given to me a while ago. And so every CEO knows their numbers, you know, going into a board meeting. And you should be the same way about, you know, your dials, your emails, you know, your pipeline meeting set, depending on your role and what you're focused on. You got to know those so that you can make the tweaks necessary to be successful.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Awesome. Where can people find you if they want to, you know, kind of geek out about cold calls or, you know, talk about the music scene in Marin or just learn how to get a sweet mustache?
Yeah, I mean, they can reach out to me. It's A Matthews with 2 T's at customerlobby.com, or you can find me on LinkedIn, Austin Matthews on LinkedIn. Yeah, either one of those. Reach out.
Cool, man. Awesome. Austin, I appreciate you coming on, man.
Cool. Tommy, appreciate it, man.
All right. Thank you, everyone, so much for checking out that podcast, especially if you're in the middle of cleaning the dishes, mowing the lawn, you know, taking a nap, whatever it is that you're doing, multitasking while you're listening to this. I appreciate you. Again, shout out to Gong, shout out to Postal. It's the last month of the quarter. Let's get after it, people. And please hit me up on social media. I'm Tommy Tahoe everywhere. Tom Alemo on LinkedIn, and review this podcast, subscribe, show some love. Peace.